It took 3 days after our son died for Adrian to finally show up at the funeral home. He walked in looking jet-lagged, his skin still holding the windburn from the ski slopes where he'd been with his first love. He frowned at me, impatience etched into the lines of his forehead. "Sorry," he said, checking his watch. "Chloe was waiting for me. I didn't see the calls." I stared at the man I had loved for 5 years and let out a broken, jagged laugh. He had no idea. He didn't know that the calls he ignored weren't just checking. They were Jude's final, desperate screams for help before the crash. And right now, the ground beneath Adrian's feet was the place where we were holding his son's funeral. Chapter 1. Mourners flowed in and out of the memorial hall like a black tide. Their faces wore masks of practiced grief, offering condolences that felt as thin as paper. Lies, all of it. I stood in the kitchenette, hands trembling as I poured a glass of water. Behind me, the low hum of conversation sharpened into a blade. "The kid's been dead for days. Still no sign of the father. You didn't hear?" A conspiratorial whisper cut through the air. "Hear what?" The voice dropped to a hush, barely audible, but striking my ears with crystal clarity. "Adrian took Chloe up to the mountains. 0 cell service up there. The family blew up his phone, but he never picked up a single call. Or maybe he just didn't want to." A cruel, stifled laugh followed. "Everyone knows she only trapped him because she got pregnant. If it wasn't for that kid, Adrian would have been with Chloe years ago. That marriage is a joke." The room spun. The malicious noise swirled together, a cacophony of judgment until my vision blurred. My knees gave out, and blackness swallowed me whole right there in the middle of the funeral hall. When consciousness clawed its way back, I was greeted by a splitting headache. I rolled over, burying my face into the pillow to shut out the world. A damp, salty scent filled my nose. My own tears. I had cried enough to soak the fabric, yet the space beside me remained cold, empty. Adrian still wasn't here. The murmuring outside suddenly died down, silenced by the heavy, rhythmic thud of leather shoes against the floorboards. "Adrian, you're finally here," someone in the crowd murmured. "Adrian?" My heart stuttered. Impossible. He was miles away, wrapped up in a winter getaway with Chloe. Why would he come back? More importantly, would she even let him? Chloe had calculated it perfectly. She dragged Adrian onto an international flight the exact day Jude turned 5. I closed my eyes, the memory searing my mind. Jude, sitting in the dim light of the dining room, his small head bowed. The candles on his cake were melting into wax puddles, the flickering flame dancing in his dark, sad eyes. He was a child who lived for sweet, yet he hadn't touched the frosting. He just looked up, his voice small and trembling. "Mommy, when is Daddy coming home?" He didn't cry. He didn't throw a tantrum. At 5 years old, he had already learned the hardest lesson of his short life. Daddy didn't love him, and he certainly didn't love his mother. 5 years. That was Jude's only wish, to have his father at his birthday party. He died waiting. The chair beside the bed scraped against the floor, snapping me back to the present. A weight settled onto the mattress. Cedarwood and cold air. I knew that scent better than my own skin. After 5 years of sharing a bed, my body recognized his proximity before my brain even processed it. Once, I would have leaned into that warmth. I would have begged for a crumb of his affection. Now, I didn't even turn my head to look at him. Adrian adjusted his cuffs, his voice flat and devoid of emotion. Sorry, that word again. Chapter 2. The memory of the day he left played on a loop in my mind. I had blocked his path to the door, my fingers gripping the expensive fabric of his sleeve. I was pathetic, begging him, "Can't you go tomorrow? Please, Adrian. It's Jude's 5th birthday. He just wants his dad here." I knew the rules of our marriage. I knew I had no right to ask him for anything. This wasn't a union he wanted. It was a cage he'd been forced into. But for Jude, I would shred my pride. Predictably, Adrian didn't even flinch. He pried my fingers off his arm, his expression blank. "Cold. Sorry. Chloe is waiting for me." Chloe was waiting, but his son was waiting too. Only this time, Jude wouldn't be waiting anymore. He was done. A deep chill radiated from my bones, making me shiver violently under the covers. I curled into a tight ball, knees to chest, trying to hold myself together. Adrian sat in the chair nearby. He knew I was awake. He was a paranoid man, hypervigilant. Over the years, he monitored my every move, not out of love, but out of suspicion. He was terrified I would scheme against him again, or worse, hurt the woman he actually loved. "You're up." His voice held no grief, only impatience. "The crowd downstairs has cleared out. Get up and eat something." How could he be so calm? It was as if the body in the other room wasn't his flesh and blood. But then again, maybe to him, it wasn't. For 5 years, he never treated Jude like a son, and he certainly never treated me like a wife. If not for my mother's scheming, I never would have ended up in Adrian's bed. I never would have become Mrs. Pay. He hated me. He hated my mother. He once called us parasite, the snake that bit the farmer who saved it. The thought of Jude sent a fresh wave of acid up my throat. I pressed my face harder into the sodden pillow, my voice sounding like it had been dragged through gravel. Did you see Jude?" "Yeah, good." I swallowed the sob threatening to rip my chest open. "Now get out." Adrian didn't move. His voice remained as light and unaffected as a breeze. "I didn't get the calls, Tessa. Once we got into the mountains, the signal died." "I'm serious." Serious? Was he emphasizing the truth or trying to absolve himself of guilt? It didn't matter. Nothing mattered. "Okay, get out." He still didn't leave. The air in the room grew heavy, shifting from indifference to accusation. "Tessa, the kid was 5 years old. How could you let him go out alone?" My breath hitched. "I'm his father," he continued, his tone hardening. "Don't you think I deserve an explanation?" "An explanation?" A dry, hollow laugh scraped its way out of my throat. I forced my stiff, aching limbs to move, pushing myself upright. I knew exactly what I looked like. Hideous. My face was a map of tragedy, tear tracks crusted on pale skin, deep creases from the pillow etched into my cheek, eyes sunken into dark, hollow pit. I looked like a skeleton wrapped in skin. And then there was Adrian. Chapter 3. He sat there, immaculate, suit pressed, tie perfectly knotted, posture rigid. His face was a mask of glacial indifference. No red-rimmed eyes. No swollen lid. He looked like a detective interrogating a suspect. And I was the criminal on the stand. What's funny? Adrian frowned, the expression sharp with annoyance. I'm laughing at you. I leaned back against the headboard, feeling like old parchment, dry, brittle, ready to crumble into dust. Yet the edges remained sharp enough to cut. Do you know where Jude was trying to go when he left the house? Adrian stared at me, waiting. He was going to find you. I let the words hang there. He called you. Over and over again. Not a single one went through. He told me, Daddy might be lost. Daddy can't find his way home. So he went out to find you. Adrian hesitated. A flicker of something defensiveness, maybe, crossing his eyes. You didn't stop him. I could trick him once, maybe twice. But he was worried about his dad. He waited until I stopped. Suddenly, the absurdity of it all choked me. Why was I explaining this to him? Why did I still care what he thought? I exhaled, the breath shaking in my lungs. My fault. 2 words. They hit the cold air of the room like a gavel strike. Adrian's eyes narrowed, scanning me, dissecting me. I met his gaze, my voice steady, slicing through the silence. My mistake was loving you when I had no business doing so. My mistake was marrying you through a twist of fate and having Jude. My mistake was giving birth to him, letting him suffer through a life where he was unwanted and failing to protect him. The pressure in the room mounted, heavy and suffocating. I forced the corners of my mouth up into a broken smile. But my biggest mistake? Thinking we could ever go back to how we were before. Adrian's expression went blank. The air left the room. Crack. Neither of us saw it coming. The slap connected with my cheek before I even registered the movement. A figure stormed in from the hallway, a whirlwind of sobbing and screaming. After the slap, hands clawed at my shoulders, shaking me violently. You couldn't even watch one child. Do you even deserve to be a mother? Patricia, Adrian's aunt. She was loud, arrogant, and vicious. She had never liked me, and she despised Jude even more. I remember the times she'd accidentally shoved him, fed him rotten peaches, or whispered poison into his little ear. Your daddy hates you. But now, she was wailing, a performance worthy of an Oscar, putting on a show of grief strictly for Adrian's benefit. I sat there numb. Another slap, then another. The metallic taste of blood filled my mouth as my lips split. Adrian, my husband, the father of my dead child, sat there and watched. He didn't move. He didn't speak. His eyes were voids of indifference, just like always. In the moments when Jude and I needed him most, he was never a participant, only a spectator. Patricia grabbed a fistful of my hair, yanking my head back. Pain radiated across my scalp, sharp and hot. Through the tears and the chaotic screaming, I locked eyes with Adrian. Years ago, I tripped and scraped my knee, just a scratch. He had panicked, his brow furrowed, asking over and over if I was okay, if it hurt. Time changes everything. Now, I was being beaten in front of him, and he looked at me like I was a stranger. From the innocent crush of my youth to the careful, walking on eggshells obsession after he turned cold, it all led to this. The schemes, the forced marriage, the title of Mrs. Pay. It was all a joke. Chapter 4. I used to have so much for him. Love, hope, guilt. But the string had been pulled too tight for too long. Snap. I bolted upright. My hand shot out, gripping Patricia's arm. I didn't think. I just swung. Crack. My palm collided with her cheek. Patricia froze. She clutched her face, eyes bulging, staring at me in total, paralyzed shock. In this house, I owed nothing to anyone, except Adrian, but I definitely didn't owe her. And I certainly didn't owe an apology for Jude. That slap was payback, long overdue. By the time we arrived at the cemetery, my face was a wreck. My left cheek throbbed, swollen and hot. Scratches from Patricia's nails marred my chin. The damage would have been worse if Adrian hadn't intervened, but he didn't pull her off me to protect me. He had shoved me away. Inside the town car, the heater blasted, but a glacial chill seeped through the windows. I stared out at the passing gray landscape, feeling absolutely nothing. Hollow. Adrian sat next to me. He was on the phone. Chloe. It was the day of his son's burial. We were minutes away from lowering a small casket into the ground, and he was taking a call from her. His tone was loose, relaxed. He had a specific kind of patience reserved only for her. Yeah, I'll be busy for a few more days. You go back first. Her. I turned slightly. Adrian's gaze flicked toward me, cool and detached. He pulled the phone away from his ear and extended it to me. Chloe wants to talk to you. If this were the old me, the Tessa who still had fight left in her veins, I would have smashed the phone against the dashboard. But now, with Jude gone, what was the point? Adrian watched me with a flicker of surprise as I took the phone. I didn't scowl. I smiled. A broken, jagged thing. I pressed the device to my ear. The screen was still warm from his face. Once that warmth was my drug. I used to crave his scent, the sound of his voice, the heat of his skin. I wanted to be close to him so badly it hurt. Now, that lingering body heat just made bile rise in my throat. Tessa. Chloe's voice floated through the speaker. Classy, cheerful, unaffected. Are you doing okay? I didn't answer. Beside me, Adrian's presence was a heavy, suffocating weight. The threat was unspoken but loud. If you say one harsh word to her, you're walking. He'd done it before. 2 years ago. A blizzard. Late at night. All I had done was call Chloe and tell her to stop destroying my family. Adrian found out. He exploded. He smashed my phone and kicked me out of the car in the middle of a snowstorm. I walked for 2 hours in the freezing dark. I ran a high fever for a week. Adrian never checked on me. Not once. It was Jude. My baby boy had knelt by my bed, his small, cool hand resting on my burning forehead, whispering, "Mommy, mommy." I survived that night for Jude, because if I died, who would protect him from the wolves in this family? Chapter 5. But now, I was the one who was gone. The air in my lungs felt thin, insufficient. Every breath was manual labor. The engine that kept me fighting for survival had sputtered and died. Chloe's voice voice drilled into my ear, low and soft, designed to fly under Adrian's radar. Tessa, you lost the kid. How are you holding up? She paused, letting the silence fester. It must be bad. You lost your only leverage. Leverage. That's all my son was to them. Jude was the chip I played to get through the Pay family gate. Without him, I was nothing. Without him, staying in this house was a meaningless torture. I didn't want this place. I never did. My throat felt like it was lined with sandpaper. I forced the words out. Then I'm giving him back. Chloe paused. What? I'm returning him to you. I corrected myself, my voice void of any fight. Sorry. He was yours to begin with. Adrian. He's yours. The phone was ripped from my hand. Adrian ended the call, his face twisted in a scowl that promised violence. What the hell are you spouting to Chloe now? What could a mother who just buried her child possibly say to her husband's mistress? There were no warnings left in me. No curses. Only surrender. I was letting go. I was stepping aside so the lovers could finally reunite. I didn't have the strength to hold the line anymore. I didn't even have the strength to keep living. Jude was buried in a drizzle that chilled the skin. The photo on the gray headstone was taken when he was 3. We had booked a session for a family portrait. Jude and I arrived early. We waited from morning until the sun began to dip. Around us, other families laughed. They wore matching outfits. Fathers tossed sons in the air. Mothers fixed daughters' hair. The photographer captured joy, frame after frame. Their happiness made us look like a punchline. I could handle Adrian's cold shoulder. But Jude? In the photo, Jude wasn't smiling. He was holding back disappointment, trying to be brave so I wouldn't be sad. Now, standing in the mud, someone held an umbrella over my head. I stared at the stone and prayed. Don't come back to me, baby. In your next life, find a mom and dad who both love you. Find a dad who looks at you. Don't suffer like this again. Rain blurred my vision. A shadow moved across my peripheral. Adrian. His black wool coat brushed against the damp air. He bent down, placing a box at the base of the headstone. When he stood up, I saw it. A Lego race car set. My blood ran cold. I grabbed his sleeve, my grip like iron. He stiffened, glancing around at the relatives, terrified I would cause a scene. Not here, he hissed. We'll talk at home. What is that? My voice was terrifyingly calm. Adrian looked back at the grave, his expression unreadable. A birthday present. He asked me for it. I didn't get the chance to give it to him. He asked you for it? Yeah, Adrian said, buttoning his coat. We had a deal. Chapter 6. The look on my face must have terrified him. It was the look of a woman watching her world turn to ash. Adrian grabbed my wrist, his grip tight. What's wrong? My knees buckled. I collapsed into the mud in front of Jude's headstone, a knife twisting violently in my gut. My baby? On his very last birthday, he held a fake gift in his hands and smiled like it was the greatest treasure in the world. He knew. He had to know that the watch I gave him, the one I swore was from his daddy, was something I bought myself, but he accepted it. He smiled. He thanked his father. He protected me from the truth that for 5 years, his father didn't love him enough to buy him a single birthday gift. And now, only in death, did he get a real gift. What was the point? The air inside the Pay Manor was thick enough to choke on. Franklin was waiting in the main hall. The old man stood tall, his knuckles white as he gripped his cane. His thick brows were knotted together in fury, but when he looked at me, his expression softened. Tessa, go upstairs. I knew that tone. He was going to discipline Adrian. Franklin was the only person in this house who actually wanted me here. He was the one who championed this marriage. Years ago, my father died saving Franklin's life. When the pillar of my family collapsed, the Pay family stepped in to repay the blood debt. They gave my mother a job as a housekeeper with a salary that secured our future. Franklin put me in the same private school as Adrian. He told his son, take care of her. Treat her like your own sister. Adrian did exactly that. My mistake was falling in love with him. Now, Franklin had cleared the room. He knew Adrian